Good morning, everyone. Uh, I think we need to get started with the next session. I am Professor Himanshu Bhairat from IIT Bombay. I'll be chairing this session. I welcome you all to this first session in the electromagnetics workshop. We had a very interesting start, especially with Professor Pramanik saying that we have to have an interaction with the industry and bringing those problems to academics. And then there's a very important point that he made was regarding the breakdown of Kirchhoff's laws, and especially the integral E dot dl not coming out to the conservatives, so to say. And that leads us pretty well into this presentation here, and with that I'll get started. We have Dr. Harishankar Ramachandran for this presentation. He received his PhD from University of California, Berkeley in 1988, and there's a typo in there then. Okay, he worked at University of California, Los Angeles for 5 years and then joined the Institute of Plasma Research in Ahmedabad in 1993. In 2001, he shifted to IIT Madras, where he is now as the Professor of Electrical Engineering in the Department of Electrical Engineering. Dr. Ramachandran works in the area of plasma physics, optical communications and computational electromagnetics. With this, I'll hand over the forum to him.
Good morning. I wasn't entirely sure what this talk, how it should be positioned, because for instance, I was not sure that I was supposed to talk about low frequency or high frequency, and I ended up choosing to talk about high frequency. So just lack of knowledge of the audience that I was aiming at. So in IIT Madras, like in all other places, we have been having a lot of discussion on how to make electromagnetics interesting to students and how to make them develop the skills which they will need if they want to go anywhere further in electrical engineering. So that is really what I'm going to talk about, and what we do to make this subject, which is so important, seem relevant to undergraduate students. And I hope I make sense at the end of this talk. So the plan of the session is that, as Professor Shivgaonkar has said, and it's pretty obvious, at the research level, electromagnetics is becoming indispensable in practically every area of electrical engineering. It doesn't matter which area you choose, you're hitting limits where you have to deal with the fields, the details of the fields, and you have to solve problems that we would properly call electromagnetics. But if you go to the UG level, you look at the coursework, the need for electromagnetics is very little. Students can safely ignore electromagnetics and learn the other subjects. I'll talk about what the subjects they focus on. And so this is a problem. We want to teach them this important subject, but they don't see it as important. For them, it's a nuisance forced on them by these old people who are stuck in the 70s and don't understand that this subject is over. So for me, because I was thinking of high frequency, I was not thinking of machines, RF circuits is an opportunity, because today's electronics finally has reached the point where you can't do electronics and ignore electromagnetism. And so all the students are interested in RF circuits. And that is one area where we can make electromagnetics seem relevant. And that is the focus of my talk, that we have to make them understand that the one way of thinking about electromagnetics is to call it as high frequency circuit theory. Of course, it is not just that, but that is something they understand. You get them into it, and by the way, you give them the skills they need, so that when they want to do the more challenging problems in RF, optics, photonics, etc., they have enough skills to start building their more capabilities. So I don't think I need to say very much about this, but the research scenario is in communications, I should say, is very changed since the 70s. In the 70s, when I was studying, physical layer was dominant. You learned all about fields, and by the way, you sent signals on those fields. The coding theory, the modulation scheme, detection and estimation theory, information theory, all of that was not there. It was there, of course, but it was not given that much importance. What was more important was, how did you send the signal? How do you design the antenna? What goes into cables? And yeah, of course, we send signals on them. Today, it's the other way around. The modulation schemes and the ways in which you handle the way the channel misbehaves is the focus. So you talk about fading channels, Rayleigh channels, you talk about all the techniques you'll use linear algebra in and solve the problem of Maxwell's equations without actually doing any Maxwell's equations. So that is the focus that has happened. Physical layer has got de-emphasized in the last 20, 30 years. Of course, now it's coming back, but there was a period when the attitude in research was, it doesn't matter what the channel is doing, we can handle it at the coding level. But now circuits are operating at much higher frequencies. I mean, the frequencies are arbitrarily high. We are now talking about 100 gigabits per second on optical system, practically. That is, industry can produce it, which means that the electronics is running at, well, there are 4 channels of 25 gigabits per second each, and so the clock frequency is close to 100 gigahertz, not quite that. So you're talking about very high frequencies, and so the circuits are also now aware of all the issues in high frequency circuits. Coupling is showing up, parasitics, which were always there, are now terrible. At the same time, in the low frequency area, you're having switched circuits, and the switching frequency is rising. So now you're having high frequency switching, megahertz, tens of megahertz switching even, and that causes lots of noise, which is EMI. The circuit layouts are becoming very dense. Circuit layouts are becoming more dense, and of course, that immediately causes the same problem of coupling. And at the optics, photonics level, there are all kinds of devices that are intrinsically electromagnetic. Traveling wave transmitters and detectors, plasmonic devices, AWGs, diffractive optical elements, all those things, it is electromagnetic fundamentally. And of course, as Professor Shevgaonkar was saying, we are now moving into the nanometer scale lengths. And when you go down to the nanometer scale lengths, the basic assumptions that we are making about bulk properties themselves become questionable. For instance, in a HEMT, you have a layer where the electrons are collisionless, and it's almost a superconducting surface current that's there. So you have new kinds of models for material properties which no longer obey Ohm's law, and you have to again go back in and look at what kinds of systemic equations you start with and how do you condense them into simple formulas that can be used in design. So electromagnetic theory is very much crucial in doing research in electrical engineering. But then when you look at the UG curriculum, there's a problem. In the 70s, I did my BTech here, and we had lots of maths courses. I did a 5-year program, and it was all maths. Okay? Lots of maths courses, lots of physics courses, physical layer issues, as I told you, that's what we focused on in the electrical engineering part. Device structure, devices were taught, but the physics of devices was very important. Okay? And therefore, to a student, it was obvious that electromagnetic theory was it. You understand that, you understand everything else. So it was natural that electromagnetics had to be learnt. There was no need to discuss it. But if you look today, students don't do maths. We are doing a terrible job. We have basically reduced the number of maths courses they study, and we have changed also what they study in those maths courses. At least in IIT Madras, we don't teach partial differential equations. We barely teach ordinary differential equations because we say they learnt it in 12th standard. Linear algebra is important. Instead of calculus, differential equations, etc., it's now discrete mathematics that's foregrounded. That's because of the way electrical engineering has changed. You see, whether it's discrete control or it's digital electronics or it's this detection estimation theories in communication, it's all now discrete time event driven thing. So the mathematics is no longer calculus. The mathematics is now the mathematics of discrete events, and linear algebra is a big part of that. So linear algebra is what is being taught to the students. In fact, many students come through without knowing much about differential equations. And to make it easier for them, the physical channel has vanished. You don't know. If I show a IIT Madras student a cable and ask him how does it work, he won't know. As far as he is concerned, I send a signal here, I receive a signal there, h of omega, and I'm done. I don't need to know anything about it. Okay? Whereas, the one place where you'd expect electromagnetics to be present, which is devices, has also got away from electromagnetics. Faculty have actually told me, our students don't need electromagnetic fields course to learn solid state devices. Physics 2 is enough. Because they have compact models for everything. And they simplify the representation. So 3D devices are not really dealt with. They are dealt with, of course, at the research level, everything goes back to electromagnetics. But the student in second year, third year is not seeing that. He is seeing a very simplified world where devices are just some two-port networks, or with some components inside. This is the equivalent circuit of a transistor or whatever. So with this kind of environment in which students are learning, I don't think you can blame them for saying, why do we have to learn electromagnetics? There's no need. The coursework they have been given doesn't require it. And so the engineers we are producing, at least I shouldn't say that about everyone, but the engineers that we are producing in IIT Madras are not well equipped. Some of them, in spite of our bad teaching, learn. But we are not equipping them to learn to cope with the research problems that are facing electrical engineering. So to me, RF circuits is a way out. So I'm just repeating what I said earlier. The UG student has learnt, these are the courses we give them, and I think this is pretty much everywhere. They learn basic circuits, they learn a transforms course quite well. Then they go over and learn digital signal processing. They learn digital circuits, microprocessors, control theory, and analog circuits. And in some colleges, solid state devices is also taught. And none of this, according to the way it's taught, requires electromagnetic theory the way we would like to teach it. Okay? So the poor student suffers our courses and tries to forget it as soon as he can. But there is one exception to all this, and that is that all the students are interested in RF circuits because today's clock frequencies have gone into the gigahertz. So if they are going to get employed anywhere as circuit engineers, they have to learn how to handle gigahertz circuits. And gigahertz circuits naturally involve transmission lines, naturally involve coupled interference due to coupling of lines. All those aspects that are important and taught in electromagnetics is becoming relevant to the circuit engineer. So suddenly EM theory is needed again. But the problem is you can't teach this student electrostatics, boundary value problems, magnetostatics, Biot-Savart law, etc. and skip RF circuits, right? Because he has to feel that what he is learning is relevant to him. And so you have to bring in the circuit element into your starting electromagnetic course early enough so that he sees that this is actually a course I'm going to benefit from. So that is why I think beginning EM theory courses must focus on some questions. They should ask, when does the conventional circuit theory course that they learned in their basic courses, when does it begin to fail? And what does EM theory do to help them cope with that? Unless we give them this input, it can be very simplified, but it has to be given so that they know why this is a core course that they have to learn, and it will lead on to better things if they want to. So in my view, it's only a proposal, what we need to de-emphasize in that first course is we need to talk a little less about boundary value problems, waveguides. We shouldn't even talk about antennas. Rather, we should talk about circuits radiating. It has to be from the point of view of you're losing power rather than that you're designing this patch antenna for radiation. Cavities. These are all very advanced topics for that student because he's not going to use any of that in his UG level work. Directional couplers, RF sources. Slotted lines, it'll come into the measurement of power, but otherwise we like to spend a lot of time in these things. And the problem is the student doesn't understand the relevance of those topics. And because I am guilty of this, these are two topics where we should go softly. Vector calculus today is not a strength of the students. That's because they have not learnt their partial differential equations and calculus all that well. They are time sharing with linear algebra. So we should not put too much vector calculus into their program. And the vector potential is something that confuses them totally. And I think in a first course, it can be avoided. I mean, at the next course, it is the most important thing. But in that first course, if you bring it in, what seems to happen is that the students just do maths. They don't get any benefit from the concepts that vector potential is offering. When you remove all that, there's a lot of space. So what do we put in? We have to spend a lot of time on skin depth. Because skin depth is a circuit reality. And it's an electromagnetic effect. Bona fide electromagnetic effect. So we have to put fair amount of time on talking about the skin depth and how it affects resistance, inductance, which are frequency dependent, and bring that into their thinking. We should introduce radiation, but radiation as losses of the circuit rather than as wireless communication. For them, wireless communication, they don't want to learn about antennas. Okay, that's the channel. But if you tell them that a line will lose power because of these radiative losses, that is meaningful to them. And they have to understand how it scales with the wavelength relative to the circuit size. And you leave it to the later courses to introduce the other aspects of radiation. But I think the core course has to depend on transmission lines. Because from a circuit point of view, transmission lines are where most of the utility of electromagnetic fields is. So first course should do transmission lines, and the follow-up course takes on the waveguides and the antennas and the other concepts. Now we are not doing all this as of now in IIT Madras because the people who teach tend to be the physics background people, and they don't quite enjoy the electrical engineering examples. So they go off into gratings and thin films and all that, and again they lose the students. But ideally we should be talking about cables. We should be talking about USB cables, BNC cables, all these cables which they are using daily, and how they work, what are the problems with them. And we do have to talk about what is current doing in a transmission line, where is the power flowing. To that extent we have to come back to the fields, right? So when I say no waveguides, I don't mean that. What I mean is we are not solving the mode structures of modes in a waveguide and things like that. It's critical they understand reflection and transmission at junctions, because that is absolutely essential for working at RF frequencies. The radiation loss of different types of waveguides, and I think it's important to make the point of why we can't just use copper wires and why we use transmission lines. So I mean attenuation issues. And what my talk was officially supposed to be about, we have to explain all this, but then one of the problems students I find have is that they go through this course and they come out saying there's circuit theory, there's transmission lines. And they don't understand it's a continuum. They don't understand that the same circuit theory becomes transmission lines at higher frequency. And that same transmission line can be dealt with as a circuit at low frequencies. So we need to show that there is a low frequency limit and you get back your KVL, KCL and all the rest of your earlier coursework. So until they understand that, they don't understand they're learning the same thing, just more aspects of the same thing. I must say, because it surprised me, apparently in power systems these days, transmission lines are not taught, because they teach it as a two-port network, lambda by 8 two-port networks which can be cascaded. So why do you need transmission lines? So I think everywhere in electrical engineering we have been going away from the continuous domain partial differential equation kind of formulation. Of course it bites us at the end because we have to deal with it anyway. And one other thing that would be very nice to put in is for them to understand that transmission lines are in fact modelable by two-port devices, but not the standard two-port device. We have to introduce S parameters, and we have to show that power is the main issue, not voltage and current. In fact, voltage and current are often meaningless, but power is what you can measure. And I would like to at least have a very basic idea of how does one measure this power. So the network analyzer, what does it do? It's a box, but what's going on inside it? So as I said, the two-port device has a circuit element. So this is, to my mind, what should be in that first course, so that, you know, what they are learning is relevant to the rest of the courses, but we have, without them knowing it, introduced all the ideas by which we can teach the next course, which is the waveguides, antennas and other aspects of electromagnetism. We have tried this. This is the kind of syllabus we have put up as our first electromagnetics course. As I said, it works sometimes because it also depends on the teacher. The teacher has to feel very closely linked to circuit theory to teach such a course, because if you are more interested in fiber Bragg gratings, you will not teach this course, you will teach a different course. So it doesn't matter what the syllabus says, the teacher also has to be interested in teaching it that way. So this is actually, I don't think quite that, it's a sort of an aside. This is the kind of problem that I've seen students have when I try to explain to them how the transmission line is a circuit in low frequency. So this picture is, I think I went 2 pictures up. So I start with this circuit. I have a power source, internal impedance, there's a load and some long wires. And of course, there is a perfectly well understood way of doing this at low frequencies. So we can talk about what KCL says, the current entering at A is the current leaving at B, and continuity of current says the current is uniform. KVL says the voltage drop around the loop is 0. Then I introduce the transmission line view of the same circuit and show that in fact the current is changing sign, and if the current at A is this way, the current at B can be the other way. So one question they have is, where did KCL go? And they have to understand that there is charge that's actually being stored in the wire, because conservation of charge means that if you have a divergence of J, there has to be a del rho del T. So along with the change in current direction, of course there has to be a charge build up, and it's a moving wave. It's a charge wave that's going along with the current wave, and both are traveling. So after explaining this, students have the problem that how do we come back? Because you have this one picture that is this, no waves present, no stored charge, current is steady, and then here suddenly you have charge waves, you have current waves. They have no feel for how these two are connected. So the picture, of course, that we give them is this. We say there is a V plus and there is a V minus, and there is a characteristic impedance Z0, there is a load impedance Z, and so there is a load mismatch, so there is reflection. Then there is a source impedance R and Z0, there is a source mismatch, and so there is reflection both at the source and at the load, and so you have this standing wave that's present, which is the way you analyze transmission lines. But the problem is, however small this area length AB is, these waves are going to get triggered, because it's only got to do with impedance mismatch. So supposing Z0 is not equal to Z, even if A to B is much less than the wavelength, there is going to be reflection. So question students have asked me is, what happened? I mean, I might have a circuit that's much smaller than wavelength, say it's at 50 Hertz, so wavelength is huge, my circuit is small, but still my impedance mismatch is there, so there must be reflection, but I don't see it. So this is the problem. I mean, we have taught them an elaborate maths and they are not seeing it work in practice. So it has to be explained that the circulating current may be there, but what happens is, because the phase is not changing, the current here is the same as current there, so KCL gets recovered. The voltage here is the same as the voltage there, so there's no voltage drop on that wire. So you can get back your KVL as circuit theory does. But if this was a BNC cable of 1 meter, there is still reflection happening at the ends of the BNC, and there is a standing wave. That standing wave cannot be avoided. In fact, the standing wave V plus plus V minus is what is building up your voltage. It's the hardest part, I find, of teaching this topic, because they're not comfortable. They are comfortable learning separately circuit theory, no problem. They are comfortable separately learning this. transmission lines. You just give them equations, they master the equations. They are very good at solving problems. But when you try to tell them it is the same thing that's happening, this picture answers both limits, then there's a lot of difficulty for the students. And I think we need to spend time, improve the teaching ways. Different people have to try different things so that this idea can be properly put into the students' minds. Only then will students begin to realize that it's an artificial separation, circuit theory and electromagnetic transmission line theory. It's all one theory. It's in different limits, it looks different. But as of now, my efforts have been mixed. Some students pick it up, but many students are still very confused as to how the two theories merge into each other and how it is really the same theory after all. To me, the crisis situation in EE today is that we have a very important theory, electromagnetic theory, which is, probably the most significant physics advance in the last few centuries. It's that basic. It's extraordinarily important at the research level, but the beginning student is not seeing it as something very important. He's seeing it as an obstacle to his graduation. So we have to somehow get the students to understand we are not teaching this to them just to fail them. We are teaching it to them because it is what unifies all of electrical engineering. And to me, the way to convince them of that is to show them that circuit theory after all is also electromagnetics. If you can convince them of that, then you don't need to do anything more, because they want to learn circuit theory, they will learn electromagnetics, and pretty soon they'll be better at it than we are. It's always that way with students. You have to push them a little bit, and once you have convinced them, then no pushing is needed. Then they will push themselves. But that first convincing is very difficult today, because all our subjects have deviated into forms which don't look like they need electromagnetics. So I think that is what I wanted to say, and I'll stop here.
I open the forum to participants for any questions.
Yeah, I think I fully endorse your style. Style is just what we did in IIT. We started with transmission line. Of course, the course title was not electromagnetics, but it was electromagnetic waves. We already gave an indication that we are talking about time varying field and high frequency. So, and that's what I have kept in the book also. That 20% of the book is on transmission. Yes. Once you understand that, I think students feel comfortable. Then going for 3 dimensions becomes not more easy. I fully endorse what you are doing.
In addition to the way you're proposing a revamping of the syllabus, a similar revamping needs to happen in the lab.
Of course, I think the next talk is going to talk about lab. So I didn't want to, I think one thing at a time you have to, I agree, our labs are archaic. At least the lab in IIT Madras teaches nothing. Okay.
So actually what I feel is, will it be better to introduce some kind of industrial problems to them as well? Because if we go for the subsea wires, right, if we have something cable, usually it's up to kilometers, right? They have typically observed over voltages across induction motors driving in subsea. So some kind of example would be good to have, I believe, at this moment.
Practical example is good, but at least I have found that your example has to be what the student thinks is glamorous. Okay, if you tell him that there is some vibration problem in a turbine, they will all go to sleep. Not because it's not important. It's probably more important than your subsea cable. But the student doesn't think so. So we are salesmen. Okay, every teacher, in a certain sense, is somehow trying to get the student interested in whatever we are selling. And so as part of that, we have to we have to tempt them with examples that they find interesting. And unfortunately, what they find interesting is not what we find interesting.
Are there any other questions? Comments? If not, then let us thank Professor Ramachandran once more.